We're starting the Gemara on Kuvav Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the top of the Amud. The last point that we learned right before this in the Gemara was about the din of Yayim Pogum. When you drank from the wine, it blemishes the wine, and you can't use the rest of it for Kiddush or Avdallah. Some actually say for any Kais Shel Bracha, or even for Birchas Hamazon. It's Machlokes Rishonim about that, but this is the source for the concept of Yayim Pogum, once you drank from it. So the Gemara here brings different opinions regarding this halacha. Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, Koped achatzba. He was particular about not using from a chatzba pegima, when the pitcher was blemished. If you drank from the pitcher, so then you can't use anymore that pitcher, anything in that the wine of that pitcher for Kiddush. Ravidi bar Sheisha Koped akosa pegima. He was only particular if from the kais you drank. If you drank from the pitcher and then you pour into a cup, into a kais, so the kais is not pogum. The drinking from the pitcher does not make it pogum according to his opinion. Mar Baravashi was even more stringent than Rav Yaakov bar Idi. Koped afila chavita pegimta. He was particularly, even if the barrel was you drank wine from this barrel, it's all pogum. You can't use it anymore for Kiddush. The Rashbam here says we're not talking about those large barrels where they store the wine in it, because then it's like almost impossible. You're going to use a little bit of that wine and the whole thing can't be used anymore for Kiddush. So the Rashbam says it's talking about smaller barrels that we use to store Kiddush, not those big barrels.
Actually drank from the barrel?
L'chayra took off. Yeah, l'chayra means even took off. So this is the source for the din of Yayim Pogum. In the Gemara, it doesn't say what you do with Yayim Pogum, but there's the Yerushalmi, which is brought la halacha, that once you have wine which is Pogum, as long as you pour wine into the kais which is Pogum, it's mesaken it. It's not Pogum anymore. Alter Rebbe brings this in Shulchan Aruch, and the Alter Rebbe says, which is what it says in Yerushalmi, that's similar, actually it's a Magen Avram that says that it's similar to a Mizbeach which is Pogum. If you're mashlim the Mizbeach, so it's not Pogum anymore, so you can use the same thing also over here. If you're mashlim the Pegima of the wine, then it's okay. Another interesting thing over here is that Rashbam says that this whole thing about Pogum is only lechatchila. But b'di'eved, if you don't have any other wine, you could use wine even that's Pogum. But the Taisva says he doesn't understand how the Rashbam could say this, because the Gemara before said, if someone only has 1 cup of wine, Motzei Shabbos, and he wants to use that cup for Avdallah and for benching, so he's allowed to eat before Avdallah in order for him to be able to use that kais for benching and for Avdallah. But if the Rashbam is right, that b'di'eved you can use a kais which is Pogum, even for Avdallah, so how could he eat first? Let him make Avdallah, be toyim a little bit, and then use it afterwards for the benching. B'di'eved you can do that. But it's interesting, Taisus concludes, the third Taisus here on the Yama, Taisus says, Miu roi Rashbam lismech olav b'shas adchak. Rashbam you can be saimach and b'shas adchak, and this is brought in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe brings it as well, in Simon Kuf Pei Beis, that b'di'eved if you have no other wine, you can use wine which is Pogum. Zakta Gemara Vaita, here's the sugya of Kiddush. This is the source of the halacha of Kiddush, the way the Gemara explains it. So Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braisa, Zocher es Yom HaShabbos lekatche. So what does this mean? To remember Shabbos, to sanctify Shabbos. Zechreyu ala yayin. You remember Shabbos by making Kiddush on wine. Ein liyelo. Then the Braisa says, I only know from this pasuk by Yom that you have to remember Shabbos during the day. Balaylo minayin. From where do I know nighttime? Talmud loymar zochres Yom HaShabbos lekatche. So I learn out from the pasuk to include even by night. That's the words of the Braisa. So the Gemara immediately asks on this Braisa, doesn't make sense. Balayla minayin. You're asking a question. From where do we know that you have to make Kiddush also at night? In other words, you make by day, and you want to know if you also have to make by night. Adarabah. The contrary. Ikke Kiddusha balayla hu Kaddish. The main Kiddush is by night. Dichi Kaddish tchilas yayme bayol Kiddushi. When you make Kiddush, you have to do it in the beginning of the day when Shabbos comes in. So that's the main Kiddush. The question should be in the reverse. How do you know that you would have to make Kiddush by day as well? V'su, and then the problem over here in the Braisa is balayla minayin. The Braisa is asking the question, from where do you know that you make Kiddush at night? And it says Talmud loyma zacharis yom. It brings the pasuk of zacharis yom HaShabbos, and the pasuk says the word day yom. So Tana mehadar alayla. The Tana is looking for a source that you make Kiddush at night. The kanasiv lekradi yamama, and he brings you a pasuk where it says that you make Kiddush by day. So the Braisa is very problematic. So therefore the Gemara says, Hachi ka'amar. This is how you have to read the Braisa. This Braisa, the way it was quoted till here, was a mistake. And the Braisa was actually asking the question in the reverse. Shabbos takachoi zachrei wala yayin. You have to remember, make kiddush on wine b'knisasei when Shabbos enters. So that's at night. And then the Brisa says, Ein li'ela balaylo. So I would think that you only make kiddush by night. By yoyim minayin. From where do I know that you make kiddush by day? Talmud loymar zacheres yoyim Shabbos. It says in the pasuk zacheres yoyim Shabbos. So from here I see that you make kiddush by day. That's the right way how to read this Brisa. So this is the Gemara. This is the source of the din of kiddush. You make kiddush on wine. There's a big machlokes rishonim whether making kiddush on wine is min haTorah or midrabanan. Rashi and many other rishonim say that the kiddush ala yayin is min haTorah. There's Gemara in Nazir that talks about a person that can't drink wine, and Nazir can't drink wine. And the Gemara says that wine, the mitzvah of making kiddush on wine, he's mushba v'omed mahar Sinai to make kiddush on wine. It's mashma from the Gemara that making kiddush on wine is min haTorah. That's the opinion of many Rishonim. But many other Rishonim, I believe most Rishonim hold that making kiddush on wine is not min haTorah. Making kiddush min haTorah is just to remember, to say, to be mekadesh Shabbos in Shmei Esrei. When you say by night, Friday night, when you mention Shabbos at night, that's already the kiddush min haTorah.
Well, you can make kiddush on challah anyway.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. That's an Amud Beis. So that's the machlokes rishonim, and there's a famous Rabbi Akiva Eiger that said that you don't even have to actually say it. Wait until you say it in the Shmei Esrei or in the Nusach of davening, where you say, when you mention kiddush, just saying Good Shabbos, that's already sanctifying the Shabbos, and you make you're being by that by saying Good Shabbos. I once heard that Rabbi Simpson was a masker by the Rebbe. So whenever he left, one time he left from the Rebbe Friday afternoon. And he said Good Shabbos. So the Rebbe says that the Freitag nach Mittag, when it's close to Shabbos, you don't say Good Shabbos, because then you're like being Makabel Shabbos already. You say Guten Erev Shabbos when it's already in the afternoon, maybe after Plaga Mincha, or maybe after Chatzais, I'm not sure. But I once heard that the Rebbe told this to him. Huh? Yeah, after Plaga Mincha. Anyway, so that's, even just saying Good Shabbos is sanctifying the Kiddush Shabbos.
However, with him, you still always tell him the Erev Shabbos.
Erev Shabbos, yeah. Yeah, so that's a famous machlokes rishonim regarding the kiddush, if it has to be on wine or not. And you learn this Gemara, another thing regarding kiddush by day. In the lashon of the Gemara, it's mashma that the kiddush by day is min haTorah, because the Gemara is learning it out from the pasuk over here, where it says zachres yoim. But most rishonim say that the kiddush by day is not min haTorah; it's midrabanan, it's an asmachta, right? Now the Gemara is going to focus on the kiddush by day. So by yoim ma'im mevarach. What is the bracha that you make on the kiddush by day? Amar Rav Yehuda, Boire Priyagofen. You just make a bracha of Boire Priyagofen. That's it. There's nothing else that you say. And there's actually a machlokes rishonim regarding this kiddush. What exactly is the pshat of this kiddush? If you look here in the Rashbam says that it's just a matter of kavod Shabbos. In order to show that it's different than a regular meal, where you begin the meal just with eating and washing for challah or bread, so you begin with wine, which gives it a special beginning, kavod Shabbos, so that's a special inyan for Shabbos. So it's not really the same inyan as Kiddush Friday night, where it's Zocharis Yom Shabbos to make Kiddush. Other Rishonim say no, it's mashma from this Braisa that it is an inyan of Kiddush. However, they weren't misakin a special nusach like it was at night. You already made Kiddush at night, so you only say Bari Priya Gofen. Rav Ashi Ikla l'Mechuzah. Rav Ashi was in Mechuzah. Came to Shabbos to the city Mechuzah. So Amri Lei, they said to him, Liktish Lon Mar, Kiddush Rabbah, make for us Kiddush. This was Shabbos day, and they were giving him the honor to make Kiddush, and they referred to the Kiddush as Kiddush Rabbah. So Havulei, they gave him a kais of wine to make the Kiddush. So Savar, he was thinking to himself, Mainiyu Kiddush Rabbah. When they said this expression, that Shabbos day is called Kiddush Rabbah, why is it called Kiddush Rabbah? What does this mean? The great Kiddush. I mean, the main Kiddush is at night. So why are we calling the Kiddush Shabbos by day? The main Kiddush, Kiddush Rabbah. So Amar, he said to himself, Mechti, let's see, Kol brachas kulon, all brachas, including when you make Kiddush, Bari Priya Gofen Amri Bereisha. First you make a Bari Priya Gofen. So he said as follows, Amar Bari Priya Gofen. He said the bracha of Bari Priya Gofen on the Kiddush, and Va'agid Bey. And he dragged out the conclusion of the bracha. He wanted to see what's going to happen. Is anyone going to drink from the wine right away, or are they going to wait for him to make another bracha? He wanted to see what's going to happen because he wasn't sure what to do. So Chazye Lahu Saba, as he was dragging out the bracha of Bari Priya Gofen, he saw an older person, the Gachen Vishasi, that bent down and drank from the wine. And now he knew, that's all. I don't have to say more than Beirei Pri Hagafen. Kari anafshe, so he said about himself, a wise man has his eyes in his head. In other words, he sees, he had this plan how to be able to figure out what he's supposed to do. Okay, interesting. The Rishonim here discuss that usually you're not supposed to be toyim before the person that's making kiddush tastes from the wine. How did this old person, Taisus here asks the question, many other Rishonim, how did he taste from him? Okay, so how can you can't prove from him anything?
No, it's not because he knew what you do afterwards.
Okay. So there's different. There's many answers over here. Taisva says that only by hamaitzi you're not supposed to be tying before the one that makes the bracha. By kiddush you are allowed to, but there's in another place Taisva says that this old person got the message, the hint of what he was trying to do. He realized he's like waiting to see, so he went and drank in order for him to know that he doesn't have to make another bracha.
I was looking for other people to tell him what to do.
Also, when he didn't realize, he didn't know the halacha, like what he should have.
So it could be there's different minhagim. So he wanted to know what the minig over here is. So he was waiting to see what their minig is. The Rishonim Taka discuss why is it called Kiddusha Rabbah. What's this name, Kiddusha Rabbah? The Rashbam here said that it's called Kiddusha Rabbah because you only make the bracha of Beirei Pri Hagafen that you make on every wine. So that's like Rabbah in the sense of this is the same bracha you make on all wine. That's all it means. Other Rishonim say there's a famous pshat that Kiddusha Rabbah is actually a lashon of Sagi Noher. Just like you call a person that's blind, that he's Sagi Noher, that he has a lot of light in his eyes. So the same thing, the main Kiddush is at night, the Shabbos day Kiddush is not as important, so in order for people to not be mezalzel in the Kiddush of by day, so they called it Kiddusha Rabbah. Okay, so that's the story of Kiddush Shabbos day.
The Aseret Sudasa, Kiddush Rabbah, the Chamer Tov is like, discusses the wine, the strong wine, is that it?
Maybe, it's the wine by day, to give it a special chshivas, yeah. Okay, Amri B'nei Rab Chia. Now we go on to another subject, B'negeya to Havdalah, but we're going to come back to Kiddush in a second. So the children of Rab Chia said, Mishlei Hivdil b'matzah Shabbos. If you did not make Havdalah on Matzah Shabbos, Mavdu v'hoilech b'chala Shabbos kulai. We mentioned this before, you can make Havdalah during the rest of the week. But the question is, Va'ad kama, until when? Can you make Kiddush until the following Shabbos? Or Havdalah, that is, until the following Shabbos? Amar Rav Zeire ad revi b'Shabbos. Can make Havdalah until Wednesday, not including Wednesday. So until Tuesday. Ki hadi Yosef Rav Zeire kamei de Rav Asi. Rav Zeire was in front of Rav Asi. V'amri lo Rav Asi kamei de Rav Yochanan. Rav Asi was sitting in front of Rav Yochanan. V'Yosef v'kamar, and he sat and was saying, Le'inyin gitin, when it comes to a get, a term that's used regarding a get. So Rashi here says what this means is, if a person's giving a get, the Rashbam says, if you're giving a get and you make a condition, I'm giving you the get, al manas, that you give me money before Shabbos. Or al manas, that you give me money after Shabbos. What defines before Shabbos and what defines after Shabbos? So chada b'Shabbat, Sunday, trei utlasa, basa, trei tlasa, or the second, the third day, Monday and Tuesday, basa Shabbat. That's what's considered to be after Shabbos. Arba v'chamisha, Wednesday, Thursday, umayle yoime, Kamed Shabbat, and Erev Shabbos, that's what's called an Erev Shabbos. So it's the same thing also, B'negeya to Havdalah. Until Tuesday, it's considered to be Matzah Shabbos. Aval lo yala or, but you don't make. Amar Rav Yaakov Baridi. Rav Yaakov Baridi said, Aval lo yala or. You don't make a bracha on Havdalah candle unless it's Matzah Shabbos itself, as the Rashbam here says, or Rashi here says. The Rashbam says the reason is because the time when light was created, the fire was created, was on Matzah Shabbos. So therefore the whole inyan of making a bracha on the Havdalah candle is only on Matzah Shabbos, not on any other time in the week. And there's a discussion also regarding the Besamim. If there's an inyan to make a bracha on Besamim, if you're making Havdalah on any other day, I believe the consensus is that you don't make a bracha on Besamim. But if you want, you could always make a bracha on Besamim. It's not, to make the bracha of Beirei Meirei Eish, you can't make it only on Matzah Shabbos. But Besamim, you could always make a bracha on Besamim. Yeah, so there's another interesting machlokes Rishonim regarding this halacha of being allowed to make Havdalah in the rest of the week. What happens if it was a case where a person was potter from Havdalah on Matzah Shabbos? Like a case where Rahman al-Islam, a person is an oinan, a close relative that passes away, and he's potter from Havdalah on Matzah Shabbos, so could he make Havdalah the next day until Tuesday? So the question is, what's this inyan that you can make Havdalah until Tuesday? Does it mean that the Iker Chiyuv goes until Tuesday? If it does, so then even if you were potter on Matzah Shabbos, but you have a Chiyuv on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Or, no, your Chiyuv is really Matzah Shabbos. The rest of the time, it's a Hashlama. So if you weren't Chayiv on Matzah Shabbos, So then there's no Ashlama for you. So then you potter for the there's no Avdallah afterwards. Similar machlokes we had before regarding a person who had been engaged to Kiddush. If you didn't make Kiddush by night, b'mezid, could you make Kiddush by day? Is it a Hashlama, or does it mean that the time of Kiddush is the whole Shabbos? Similar kind of machlokes. Gemara comes back to Kiddush now. Omarav Brune Omarav Hanoitel Yodov, a person that washed for the Suda on Friday night, and he did not make Kiddush yet. Loi Yekadish, you should not make Kiddush on the wine. Okay, and what's the problem over here? Says Rashi, the Rashbam explained that if you're going to make Kiddush after you washed, so then it's going to be a hefsek between your washing and eating the challah. It's a hefsek. And so when you wash for bread, you have to wash without any hefsek. Once you're masiach das, you take your mind off from eating, so then you have to wash over again. So therefore, if you washed before, you can't make Kiddush and then eat the challah. Amalahu Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta. So Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta said, Akati leinoch nafshe de Rav. Rav did not pass away yet. Shachachinu l'shmaitase, and you already forgot his halacha that he taught us. Zimnin sagin havakaimna kamei Rav. Many times I was in front of Rav. So Zimnin the chaviv alei rifte. When he enjoyed to have bread, challah first, mekadesh harifte. He made kiddush on challah. And Zimnin the chaviv alei chamre, and when he wanted wine, mekadesh hachamre. He made kiddush on wine. So what are you proving from here? So the Rashbam's pshat in the Gemara is, just like when you make Kiddush on Challah, so you're washing for the Challah, and you make the bracha on Maitzi, but you don't eat the bread immediately. Then you have to say the bracha of the Kiddush. And the bracha of the Kiddush is not considered to be a Hesach Hadas. It's not an interruption from your washing to eating the bread. So the same thing also, if you wash, and then you're going to make Kiddush on wine, and then you're going to eat the Challah, it's also not going to be an interruption. So therefore he said to them, how could you say that if you washed before, that you shouldn't make Kiddush afterwards? That's the Rashbam's pshat in the Gemara. But the Rashbam himself asks, and Tosfos also talks about this question here, that how could you compare to this case of washing on bread and making Kiddush on bread? When you wash on Challah, and you're actually making Kiddush on the Challah, so it's understood why over there wouldn't be a hefsek, because you're not doing anything else other than what has to do with the Challah. You're washing for the Challah, you're making Kiddush on the Challah, and you're eating the Challah. But before we were talking about a person that washed, and then is going to make Kiddush on the wine, and then he's going to eat Challah. Maybe that's different. How could you compare the two? So the Rashbam holds that Rav Bruna held that there's no distinction. Just making the bracha of the Kiddush, either it's a hefsek or it's not a hefsek. It makes no difference if you're making that bracha on wine or you're making the bracha on the challah, which you're making the Kiddush on the challah. It makes no difference. The Gemara holds that it's not a hefsek. That's the Rashbam's pshat in our Gemara. Tosfos, however, says, when the Gemara here says that Rav would make Kiddush arifta, right? Zimnin chaviva le rifta, mekadesh arifta, what that means is he washed because he wanted to have bread first, he wanted to have challah first, but then he changed his mind and made Kiddush on wine. And then he ate the challah. So he actually did make a hefsek with making Kiddush on the wine. That's the pshat in the Gemara. Not that he made Kiddush on the challah. He did not make Kiddush on the challah. He made Kiddush on the wine. That's what the Gemara means to say over here. Okay, so that's the raya that it's not a hefsek. Okay, that's the second pshat in the Gemara over here according to Tosfos. But then there's another pshat here in the Gemara that Rabbeinu Tam says, because basically it comes out from what it says here in the Gemara that you could make Kiddush on challah. And that's the halacha that's brought in Shulchan Aruch. Most Rishonim hold that you can make Kiddush on challah, which would basically mean, going back to the point that we were speaking about before regarding making Kiddush on wine, whether making Kiddush on wine is Minat Torah or not, it must be that making Kiddush on wine is not Minat Torah. It's a takana mid'Rabbanan to make Kiddush on wine, because that's the opening of the Suda. But if you can't make Kiddush on wine, you make Kiddush on bread. Bread, challah, is considered to be the opening of the Suda. And actually, from our Gemara, it's mashma. If you like challah more than the wine, so maybe adarab, there's a need to make Kiddush dafka on the challah. That's in our Gemara. But Rabbeinu Tam says there's no Kiddush on challah. There's no such a thing. You can't make Kiddush on challah. And some Achronim say, and the reason why Rabbeinu Tam is saying this is because Rabbeinu Tam holds that the Kiddush on Yayin is Minat Torah. There's no such a thing as Kiddush on challah b'chlal. So what's the pshat in our Gemara? When the Gemara here says, Zimnin the chaviva le rifta, mekadesh arifta, also the Gemara, so Rabbeinu Tam says, all it means to say is, this is Rav. If you remember, Rav's opinion is, Kiddush does not have to be b'mokim suda. You can make Kiddush in one place, and then go eat in another place. So all the Gemara is saying is that sometimes Chaviva le rifte, mekadesh rifte. He made kiddush in the place that he was going to eat his challah. And he washed first, and then he made his kiddush. And that's the raya against what we said before, that you're not allowed to wash first, right? So that's all it means to say. He washed first, and then he made the kiddush on the challah. And zimin chaviva lechamre mekadesh achamre, he made kiddush on the wine, meaning he made kiddush on the wine in one place, and then he went later to eat the challah in a different place. Because Rav holds that you can make kiddush even shaloi b'makom suda. That's all the Gemara means to say. But the Gemara never meant to say that you make kiddush on challah. There is no making kiddush on challah according to Rabbeinu Tam's shit over here. Okay, that's so I mentioned over here 3 different pshatim in the Gemara. There are actually more. There are many pshatim in how to learn this Gemara. But lahalach and Shulchan Aruch, it's brought. The Alter Rebbe brings it that you can make kiddush on challah, you can make kiddush on wine. Of course, lachatchila you should make kiddush on wine, but if you can't, you can make kiddush on challah as well. Regarding the minig, I don't think there's a difference between by day and by night. Actually, Taisus over here discusses whether you can make kiddush on beer or on any sheikh or on chamar medina. Big discussion towards the end of Taisus over here about this. And Taisus says it's a machlokes. I mean, Taisus says according to the Rashbam you could, but according to Rabbeinu Tam it's a suffix whether you could or not. And Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch says that it's a suffix, and therefore if you have challah or beer, it's better to make kiddush on challah rather than making kiddush on beer. I believe that's what Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch says. So mashke is chamar medina. I mean, so for Friday night, Alter Rebbe is talking about Friday night. Shabbos day is a bit different. I'm not sure about it. Shabbos day, the minhag is that you do make kiddush on chamar medina. But I'm talking now about the ikir chiyuv of kiddush on Friday night. Regarding this that it says over here that you should not wash before you make kiddush. So the Ramah and Shulchan Aruch paskins that our minhag is that you actually wash first, and then you make kiddush. Like what he said over here, what Rav used to do, according to the Pshat of the Rashbam, this is what Rav used to do, even when he would wash first, and then he would make kiddush. The way Taisus explains it, and that's what the Ramah says. That's the man that is Adayim Azeh, the minhag Ashkenaz, the minhag of the Ashkenazim that followed the Ramah is to do this. And the Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch as well that this is our minhag. But then the Alter Rebbe says that those that are noyeg not like this Ramah and make kiddush first and then wash, so it's also good because that actually works better according to all opinions, and that's b'poyel our minhag that we make kiddush first and then we wash. Right, but there's one time that everybody makes kiddush first and only washes afterwards, which is of course the Leil HaSeder, when you have to first say the Haggadah and you only wash later. So even the Ashkenazim that follow the minhag of the Ramah will make kiddush first and then wash. Sagt die Gemara weiter, Amar Avuna Amar Rav, Toam Eine Mekadesh. Once you ate before kiddush, even if it was b'shoigig, but so now you don't make kiddush anymore by night. That is, you're going to make kiddush tomorrow. You don't make kiddush by night anymore. So he asked him the question, will the same thing apply to Havdalah? That if you ate before Havdalah, that you don't make Havdalah anymore on Motzei Shabbos, you have to wait until the next day. So he answered him, I say no, we don't apply the same thing to Havdalah. If you tasted food, you can still make Havdalah. Ravasi says, Toam einem Havdol. Once you ate, you don't make Havdalah anymore. Rav Yirmiyah Ba'abe Ikla Lebei Ravasi. Rav Yirmiyah Ba'abe was by Ravasi for a Shabbos. Ishtili, he forgot, V'toam Midi, and he tasted something before Havdalah. Havulei Koseh, they brought him then after that a kais to make Havdalah, V'avdol, and he did make Havdalah even though he already ate before. Amrele de Bisu, so Rav Asi's wife said to him, V'hamar le'ovid hachi, you did not do this. In other words, according to you, once you tasted something before Havdalah, you don't make Havdalah, you wait until the next day. Amalo, so he told his wife, Shafke, leave him, let him do what he wants to do, to make Havdalah now. Kerabe svirele, he holds like his Rebbe that says that even if you did taste something, you still could make Havdalah right afterwards. This is a Gemara that Taisus brings and says, you see from here, there's a famous Gemara that says that the Eibusher doesn't bring a takala for tzaddikim, that a tzaddik should be over such a thing, even for a behemoth of tzaddikim, for sure such a kind of a thing. So Taisus says that that's only regarding achila of foods that are not kosher. But over here, being over on eating what's a Shabbos without Havdalah, that's not a kind of thing that it goes on this, what it says in the Gemara, that the Eibusher doesn't allow a takala to happen to tzaddikim. So this could have happened to even a person like Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. Rav Yosef says in the name of Shmuel, Toam Eine Mekadesh. You tasted something before Kiddush, you don't make Kiddush anymore at night, you have to wait until tomorrow. To'am ein mavdol. Same thing with Havdalah, that you don't make Havdalah till tomorrow. V'Rabba Omer Rav Nachman Omer Shmuel, To'am mekadesh. Even if you did eat before Kiddush, you still make Kiddush by night. And V'To'am mavdol. Even if you ate before, you still make Havdalah at night, and that's what we paskin like. As we'll see in Mitzvah Shem the Gemara. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay.